Hi, host Eric here, host of Talking with Famous People, and we're talking about 8th slot, first slot. So for me, it's NE-SE. For an INFJ, it's NI-SI.
SI.
For an ISFJ, it's SINI. And for an ESTP, it's SENE. For JC, the ESFP, she's also SENE in the 1-8. So the question then is, how does the 1-8 play out? Well, first of all, I would say that it plays out differently whether it's a perceiving function or a judging function. But in this case, we're talking specifically about perceiving functions in the 1-8, namely either NESE or NISI. So I think that SE is a good support function for NE, and it's a better support function for NE as an unconscious function than the other way around. And the reason I think this is because the other way around, the choosing is more conscious, but there's less control over what you have to choose from. And I think that you can better learn to control SE than you can to control NE if it's unconscious. And I think that same dynamic is true for NISI. It will be always easier for JMET, the inquisitive one, to understand his dad than it will be for his dad to understand him. Because SI in the 8th slot is about attending to one's own well-being in time and attending to, oh, was it the wrong guy? Was it Ken who said that? Sorry, Ken.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, my bad. It was Ken. You guys sound alike. It was Ken who said that he has a father's ISFJ. So that ISFJ with SI in the dominant slot is going to be looking at familiarity as a guiding principle for what works in life. Familiarity, proven effectiveness, or proven make you feel good. And NI is probably going to help them see the truth in the 8th function without them really being aware of it, of what makes them feel good, what works, what doesn't. But because they have SI as their nature, they're going to lock on to, the older they get, the more resistant to change they are, because they built an adequate pile of tools and understandings to make their way through the world with familiar stuff. There's no more room for new familiarities to be made. And that means that NI long term has less utility for them than SI does for the INFJ. It's also why I think that ISFJs are going to be more subject to dementia and stuff like that than are INFJs. And it's because that preference of habit, cognitive habit over truth, ultimately causes the brain to stop growing intellectually or challenging itself intellectually, and that's when dementia sets in. That's my theory on it. So the answer of how to get your dad to understand your NI more effectively, well, number one, get him to relate it to him to things with which he's already familiar with. A strong analogy that says, you know this thing that you strongly already believe to be true? Well, this is the same as that other thing. See, that's the kind of question that I really like. You're intending for someone to change their relatively flawed view. What is a good argument for pointing out the flaw in a way that makes them feel stupid? Oh.
I'd also kind of like to know, but
it depends on what they give you. It depends on what they give you, okay? It really does. It depends on what they give you to work with. You have to let them give you something to work with first. He said they got a relatively flawed view. It depends how they present that relatively flawed view and why it's flawed. I think the best simple thing to do is, if it's really a flawed view, it probably doesn't pass a reciprocal burdens test. So you make the same argument against them, but make it more extreme and more ridiculous. You know, but that depends. It depends on what they say. You know, if they're arguing straight up fallacies, there's some sort of textbook responses to some of them. If they're arguing a genetic fallacy, where they go, well, you sound like the Nazis when you say that, Eric. Then you say something like,
I hate it when people say that.
Say, well, I hope you don't eat breakfast, because that's what the Nazis did. But, you know, it really is situationally consistent. But the topic on this one was, before I got sidetracked by that fun question, what about 18SINI and 18NESE? So that's my take on that, Ken, is that you got a bit of a tough road to hoe there, but the way to do it is to connect things with which he has positive familiarity already to things you want him to gain positive familiarity with.
All right.
Word. Okay. Thanks for watching Talking to Many People. Sorry about eating the candy. This episode, I normally don't do that kind of shit, but it looked so good. It's a Werther's.